Welcome to Marvelous Disney, the podcast that discusses the most recent doings at one of the more dynamic divisions of the Walt Disney Company, which is, of course, Marvel Entertainment. My co-host, the amazing Aaron Adams, and I are recording the show on Monday, August 3rd, 2020. It's been an interesting news day, Aaron. I don't know if you've seen a lot of the stuff that broke just today. The Marvel Avengers PS4 thing break over the weekend, or?
Yes, I saw all of that, and
you gotta feel for the poor guy at Bass, the UK retailer. Mm-hmm. The Marvel Avengers game comes out on September 4th. So evidently Bass put up their online listing for the Avengers game, but in the description of the item, there was a line to the effect of, play as Spider-Man exclusively on PS4, which evidently nobody was supposed to know about.
That's a whole lot like the death of Qui-Gon Jinn from the soundtrack of The Phantom Menace back in the day. Oops, did we say that out loud? Oops, sorry, can we take that back? No, too late. Foot in mouth.
That's the fun part of this story, because Bass immediately began to backpedal. I mean, first they pulled down the description, and then
they changed it to Night Monkey.
Well, what I love is the language, the effect of that information was removed for our product page as it was not correct. Remove the information as soon as we found out it was not correct. And then they went on to mention, well, this information, which, by the way, was still incorrect. We didn't get it from a publisher or one of our store suppliers. But that, in turn, it just threw more gasoline on the fire.
Well, beyond that, I also think it kind of overshadowed poor Hawkeye, because Hawkeye was not part of the original lineup for the game, and fans were like, hey, why don't we get Hawkeye? And then they're like, oh, by the way, Hawkeye's going to be able to be played as well. And it was like right after that, and they're like, oops, and Spider-Man. And everybody jumped on the Spider-Man story, and nobody has acknowledged that Hawkeye's in the game yet. So if you're a fan, Hawkeye's in there. But yeah, the Spider-Man news is the biggins.
I guess that also kind of played into this, because when they announced that he would be joining the roster of the playable characters in the game, the language they used was Hawkeye would be the second of 4 playable characters that would come into the game post-launch. It was one of those things where it's like, he's the second, so who's the first? And it's like,
right.
Can you remember the original Harry Potter movie, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone? Hagrid had that bit, oh, shouldn't have said that.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, the Avengers have had such a large and fluid roster over the years that I think they could just keep this game going by adding new, different playable characters of what we already have in the MCU, because we've already got a wealth of characters that have been on the team that go just beyond Iron Man, Cap, Hulk, and Black Widow.
No doubt. In fact, our sort of window in character is actually Ms. Marvel.
Right.
And she's really only come on the stage in the last 4 and 5 years, right? Or
yeah, she's a more recent character.
On the other hand, when Sony finally came out today, and yes, Spider-Man is in the game, but they kept stressing that he's coming in early 2021. You get him for free if you have it. Well, first of all, he's an exclusive for PS4, but he comes with the game for free if you bought the base version of the game.
Right.
So
all of their DLC was supposed to be for free anyway, right off the bat. So they were only re-emphasizing something they had already stated, was that they weren't going to nickel and dime you. There weren't going to be things like loot boxes, which drive gamers nuts. They're trying to steer clear of all the things that people are currently complaining about today in the game universe. So I think that they're doing a pretty decent thing. And as a matter of fact, when the game first came out, when we got our first look, many people didn't even like the look of the characters. They didn't resemble enough what we know from the MCU or from the comic books. They're kind of like this in-between no man's land. And they've retooled a lot of the overall look of the characters over the last several months as well. So they're listening to fans. They're taking their time that they have to, make improvements along the way that weren't originally in the books. So, I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait.
Well, not speaking of which, Crystal Dynamics, who developed the game for PlayStation, They also stepped forward today and volunteered a little information about the version of Spidey that will be in this PS4 game. Design will be influenced by the versions of Spidey that Steve Ditko and John Romita Sr. drew. Also, because Spidey's going to be a member of the Avengers in this game, that means he'll be able to access tech from Hank Pym, S.H.I.E.L.D., as well as Stark Industries. So when it comes to web shooters, you can totally customize this character. The individual version of Spidey that you'll be playing in the various war zones of the Marvel Avengers game, you yourself tailor. So, everybody's going to get a different version of Spidey, so to speak. But again, we mentioned that the character that gets the ball rolling, so to speak, in the storyline of Marvel's Avengers is Ms. Marvel rather than Captain Marvel. Which is kind of ironic, given the piece of news that you uncovered this past week about what Brie Larson is basically doing behind the scenes at Marvel Studios. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I don't know. The headline was just rather blasé. It didn't champion this as a moment of a thing that we should be proud of. So I thought, well, maybe we should shine a little light on it and be a little bit happier than the headline reports. Marvel has reportedly agreed to all of Brie Larson's MCU requests. It sounds like she was taking them hostage, right? Not the case. Not the case at all. She was just looking for something we would call equality in the real world. She wanted to be paid something equal to what her male counterparts are getting paid. So she's got this huge, I don't want to say huge salary, but it's bigger than what anyone else had at that phase in their lineup. Robert Downey Jr. didn't start off making $100 million deals on Iron Man 1. He had to work his way up to it. So Brie got a pay raise. She gets to be top billed if there's an ensemble movie. Usually it's the guy's name that's always on top. So that's a big kudo for that. And then she gets more creative input on what her character does. And I think that's a really important thing there, because I can imagine how much it must suck if you're playing a version of a character that you love on page but hate on screen. Oh, how frustrating that must be, right? Chris Hemsworth had just a little touch of that, where he wasn't all that super impressed with the way that Thor was going until we got to Thor Ragnarok, and then he felt reinvigorated with the character, had new life, had new direction. And he also had some creative input. He was able to say, and vocalize, I'm not happy with the way that Thor's going. And Marvel was able to look at someone like Taika Waititi to freshen things up, say, how about this? And it worked. So the fact that Brie has got the ability to have creative input in where her character goes, I think is a phenomenal step as well. It's always nice to see a collaboration of artists as opposed to just being directed as, no. This is the way it's going to be. If she's a fan, she should have, a little bit of a vote on what she's going to portray. Not total creative control, but, a vote. So overall, Disney gave her some equality. And I think we should state it like that normally women don't get treated equally in the movie industry. And so that's how I'm looking at this moment. And so I'm going to say thank you to Disney for doing that. I'm going to say thank you to Brie for being a strong role model for people to look up to and other actresses to follow in the footsteps of. So congratulations. Let's keep that ball rolling.
Yeah, well, that interesting you mentioned other actresses, because I don't know if you saw the thing that showed up on Twitter over the weekend. It was Michelle Yeoh, who folks probably know, this Malaysian actress from the Bond girl in Tomorrow Never Dies back in, I want to say, 2000. Likewise, she was, one of the stars of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. But they had the shot of the poor woman on the set of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings getting her COVID-19 test. And evidently it was the second of a series that she had to take before she could begin shooting on this Daniel Destin Creighton movie. By the way, this one still has a May 7th, 2021 release date. Sydney News 7, the television station there, I guess did a story just yesterday where they sent a camera team out to fly over the set of Shang-Chi, and it's a temple village setup, but they showed folks on the set painting and finishing the set. So supposedly they were getting ready to shoot this week. Downside is they are 18 weeks behind schedule, Aaron.
Oh, yeah. that timeline is starting to shrink. I mean, it's not, like in the case of Black Widow that's completed and sitting on a shelf and waiting for a pandemic to go away. This, on the other hand, is just trying to get their stuff shot so they can then get it edited, so then they can get effects put to it, so then they can get it to a theater, which may or may not still be open by this time on the calendar, next year. So who knows? Do they even have to hurry, really, at this point? They're racing against the clock where they don't know what the definitive end game is, but okay, go for it. I mean, they have to get they have to get the ball rolling, right? It's not like they can delay.
Oh, no doubt.
The other thing is, I really think, and I'm more surprised that this hasn't happened already, that Hollywood as an entity, a business, hasn't started sectioning off the studio like a quarantine zone and like creating a little hotel like across the street or something where they just book the whole thing. And if you have been quarantined for 14 days in the hotel, you get to go across the street and work on the lot. And the only place you can go is, from the lot to the hotel, and the food is like brought to you by an outside source. So you don't have to contact anybody or have contact with anybody from the outside world. You know what I mean? Create a little walled in area, pass quarantine, go to work. And you can't leave work. That's the catch. But really, in the entertainment industry, it's not like they get to see their family from, when the sun goes down, they go, well, day's done. Let's go home. When you're on location across the world, what are you going to do? You're not at home doing a 9 to 5. You're in a hotel. So get to work.
Obviously the basketball, the NBA's at Disney, and they're in the bubble, so to speak. And so far, it seems to be working, whereas Major League Baseball, it's just, every day there's another story about, either somebody being sick or somebody breaking quarantine. I forget which team had players go to a casino this past weekend.
Right.
And in much the same way as actors are paid big bucks, athletes are as well. And, the whole notion of they have the discipline to train. I mean,
right.
When you're a professional athlete, to maintain the body to be able to play at that level, a certain amount of dedication. And I don't understand the disconnect of, I'm paid all this money, but I really still want to go to the casino. So I'm going to the casino.
Come on, baby, need some new shoes. Let's give us some snake eyes.
Anyway, seeing as we're talking about things that are impacted by COVID, I want to circle back on Black Widow because, folks, if the film had been released on May 1st of this year, tomorrow, the 4th of August, would have been 13 and a half weeks, which is traditionally when the Blu-ray DVD of, Marvel Cinematic Universe films comes out. But again, I know you've been very good about maintaining your collection, in fact, mostly digital, right? You bought them, to be able to show on your home entertainment system, right?
Yeah, back in the day, I was still buying everything on Blu-ray because I still felt the need to do everything physical. And after just having an entire room filled with boxes of media of so many different formats and variety, I just started realizing that non-physical is the way to go because I have it wherever I am. I just sign into my account and there's my library. And so for so many different reasons in the way that I have to pull audio for work stuff, it is phenomenally more simplistic to rip audio that already exists on your hard drive than it is to go over to a box, search through the box, grab the disc, rip the disc, find the section of audio, cut the section of audio, and then place it in your session. It's so much easier that way. So anyway, I go totally digital, yeah.
Okay. But in the versions of Marvel Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, did you get the IMAX version? Did that come with the version you were able to download, or?
Infinity War, I don't think they've done IMAX version of anything on DVD or Blu-ray. It's always been, and the thing is, because I was always paying attention to those details of aspect ratio, and I want to say on the 3D Blu-rays, you would get the full IMAX scope of And there's only like a couple of movies that fit the bill on that one, and I'll have to go back and look them up. But yeah, as far as IMAX went, up until a point, there was only 3 or 4, and they had to be the 3D version to get the IMAX scope. Everything else was standard, like 16 by 9 or...
Interesting. Okay, well, the reason I bring that up is that IMAX just did its earnings call last week, and over this conference call, it was revealed that 30 minutes of Black Widow, Kate Shortland, the director, shot in the IMAX aspect ratio. And so I guess the irony is if the film had come out when it was supposed to, back on May 1st, we'd all be going home and throwing the disc, the Blu-ray or the DVD in and, watching the special features. But as you mentioned, because they don't do the 3D Blu-rays anymore for some reason, we'd never get to see that footage,
Well, that little bit at the top and the little bit at the bottom, that little bit extra, which I do crave, those little bits. But Jim, I don't want to sound, I feel like I'm grumpy old man all of a sudden. Get off my lawn. But I have a really hard time being excited about Black Widow right now. Part of it is the fact that after Endgame, I felt like the story was complete. And then they said, oh, there's a little coda called Spider-Man Far From Home. That will really be the end of the Infinity Saga. And I'm like, okay, fine. Because it's my favorite character, that'll be the end. And so, boom, that's the end. And I'm ready to move on. I want to get to the Eternals. I want to get to what's next. There's a Fantastic Four. There's X-Men. There's literally thousands of characters. And the very first thing that we're going to get that we've been waiting forever for is a jump back in time in a story in a book that we've already read the last chapter, close the book, put it back on the shelf. And they go, oh, wait, I forgot to tell you this one part. Hold on, let's go back a minute. They're like, oh, come on, not this. And so there's that part of it. And then there's just this news, and I hope it's a rumor right now, that Scarlett Johansson signed to come back into the MCU. And I just don't know why. Again, thousands of characters we could be talking about right now. Do we really have to resurrect someone? She sacrificed herself to save the universe. Can't that mean something for just a minute before you undo that? And I understand that Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, it could be an alternate reality version of her and all that stuff, but let the girl rest, man. She's had a long, good, hard run. We all like Scarlett Johansson, but you don't have to bring her back today.
I get that. I really do. But the thing is, just last night, came home and before bed was channel surfing and came across like the last half hour of Infinity War. Evidently, TNT has the network rights to this, whereas Disney Plus has the subscription streaming service. And I had forgotten how well put together that movie was, and it literally picked up, as the Battle of Wakanda is getting underway. And it's really professional entertainment. I mean, you're always able to know exactly where you're supposed to be looking, or for that matter, they're cutting back and forth between Thor getting his new axe made and Shuri doing the surgery on Vision. And it's just well put together professional entertainment. And
if you've got 99 main characters that all have a name and lines in the movie, and you can come out of the back end of that coherent, you did a good job, right?
Absolutely.
And the fact that they did a outstanding job, and it was more than coherent. It was fun. It was lighthearted, even though the whole universe was on the line. It was emotional. It was entertaining. It was everything you wanted it to be. So I think it was more than just professionally made. It was the flag of love that we put up as true fans. This is what we wanted to see. We wanted to see the spectacle of the entire MCU culminate in one fantastic, 3-hour moment, quote unquote. It was great.
Did you get to say, you on our last episode, we're talking about how much you were enjoying this final season of Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Did you get to see the Time Storm episode?
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
This was honestly one of the most entertaining episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I've seen out of the full run of the show. And
now,
in fact,
I gotta stop you there, because you just gave a accidental outstanding compliment to Elizabeth Henstridge, because she directed that. That was her first directing episode.
Gemma. I mean, and that's the other thing. The fact that the actress who played Gemma directed this super complex, repetitive
Groundhog's
episode.
Day-esque
Yeah, but kept it clean, kept it clear, kept it funny. I mean, that was a real tribute, and to knock it out of the park. In fact, I hate to say it, but the episode that ran the following week seemed so pale in comparison. I mean, it moved, of course, the whole final season story forward, but it wasn't that level of fun that the Time Storm episode had been. And it made me think, geez, I really want to see Black Widow. I want to see a fun superhero thing, which, by the way, you say you've discovered, but not on Disney Plus, but on Netflix, right? Or
Umbrella Academy Season 2 is finally out, and the long and short of it is, if you enjoyed Season 1, dive in for Season 2. You will enjoy it just as much. It will end with a cliffhanger that will say, oh my goodness, please give me Season 3 right now. Due to COVID, you may have to wait 1 to 10 years. So cross your fingers, cross your legs.
All right. Yes, I know that COVID has disrupted much entertainment. On the other hand, let's be honest, New Mutants before COVID came along that was having its own issues. But by the way, folks, it just would not be an episode of Mud if we didn't talk about New Mutants. And when we get back, we'll tell you what's going on with that film.
Rain-X wipers are the #1 wiper blades in America. That means all kinds of drivers choose Rain-X. Big drivers in small cars choose Rain-X. Small drivers in big cars choose Rain-X. Drivers with long hair and short commutes choose Rain-X. Drivers with short hair and long commutes choose Rain-X. Drivers with pets on board, babies on board, and bored babies on board choose Rain-X. Basically, drivers who love a clear view of the road all choose Rain-X wipers, the #1 wiper blades in America.
This episode is brought to you by Battlefield 6. Battlefield 6 is the ultimate all-out warfare experience. Rip through the skies in aerial dogfights. Demolish your surroundings for a strategic advantage. Harness complete control over every action and movement using the kinesthetic combat system. Drop into multiplayer with your squad, or fight furiously as a member of the Dagger 1-3 squad in a gritty, adrenaline-fueled single-player campaign where you'll defend a world on the edge of collapse.
Okay, so
whatever it is, I don't believe it. I'm going to start there.
Well,
and we'll move
first of
there
all,
too.
This has happened to so many films now in 2020. Hollywood has finally officially come up with a name for what's going on. Are you familiar with this term, unscheduled?
After editing the Fine Tuning podcast with you and Drew Taylor, yes, I'm familiar with it because you chatted about it then. And,
but I love, when language gets formed, the fact that now there's this new term, it's been unscheduled. When Disney unscheduled Mulan very quietly in that same window of time, New Mutants was unscheduled.
You don't say. What a shock. Oh, let me go get my surprise face once again out of the closet. Why do I keep it on the top shelf? It's so inconvenient up there.
All right. I get that. I truly do. But the interesting thing is that in the tradition of what's now being discussed about, for Christopher Nolan's Tenet, the notion that this film will open overseas in Australia and Europe and Asia, and then eventually play stateside. New Mutants was actually scheduled to open overseas in Taiwan on August 28th. But just today, the New Mutants release in Taiwan went from officially being listed on August 28th to coming soon. And when I poked at friends at Disney, they were like, okay, we're kind of looking at September 23rd, but don't quote me. That's really not locked in. But the problem is that you're now looking at movie theater chains that we're hoping that they'd be able to open at least, by Labor Day. And now, we're looking into the fall, but you've come up with something that you think will help the theaters through this tough moment.
Well, I'm just trying to think practically. I mean, the way it's looking right now, your luck of getting New Mutants onto a screen is if it played through a flashlight onto inside of a coconut, because there's no island small enough. It's got to be a population of one. It's the only person you're going to view it as you. So I want theaters to be able to reopen. And I was thinking, you need something in this way of being able to consume your snacks, right? Because I've heard Len talking about being at Disney World. You can only eat if you're stationary and spaced apart. And I was thinking, movie theaters got to be kind of similar to that. And I had this idea of, well, this is a way that you could snack and be safe at the same time. And I just called it the COVID corn face mask.
With movie theaters starting to open back up and COVID-19 still a great concern for our communities, this is a reminder that you will be required to wear a face mask while inside the movie theater. Now I hear yourself asking, but how will I be able to eat my snacks, such as popcorn, when I'm wearing a face mask? Orbital Red and Smacker is proud to announce our new COVID corn face masks. We simply toss our patent-pending face mask into the microwave and hit the popcorn button. After about a minute and a half, your face mask is fully inflated with popcorn. Now, simply strap it over your head like a feed bag. Careful, it's hot. Now sit back and enjoy a full bag of Orbital Red and Smacker popcorn while you watch your movie. Orbital Red and Smacker COVID corn face masks come in regular COVID corn flavor, buttered, cheesy cheddar powder, and ooey gooey caramel.
And that way, your face is completely concealed and you can just sit there and crunch, 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 crunch. And it muffles the sound, right? Crunch, 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 crunch. And you can just graze while you watch the new Christopher Nolan movie as you play it through a flashlight onto the inside of a coconut because you're the only one in the little island theater. Because we can't have things in civilization.
I'm standing here and trying to figure out that's either brilliant or ridiculous. The problem is it's ridiculously brilliant. I
It's
can't
right on the line. People don't know. That's why it'll make
is.
money. They'll think it's a joke, and then they'll scratch their head and go, but I could actually eat my popcorn and be safe. And then they'll buy it, and it'll work. And if you put it on too fast, you could burn like your lips and the tip of your nose. The caramel flavor sticks to your beard.
I'm not saying there aren't some issues that need to be resolved, but we're recording this on Monday. This goes live on Friday. I think perhaps maybe just file the patent. I'm just saying, or at least start filling out the copyright paper.
Sure, yeah.
You don't want to be walking into a cinema when they finally reopen in like a year, 2 years, whatever, and seeing this being offered. And, that's your home by the sea right there.
Yeah.
Well, again, I know Aaron's convinced that he's never, ever going to see New Mutants. And in fact, at this point, I don't even think you actually think the film exists.
Oh, no, I know it exists. They've showed us pictures of it. They've talked about it as if it existed. So you just need to go to an island where you're the only person. They will give you one cell at a time. You'll get to put it into your flashlight, flash it into the inside of a coconut. That's the theater of the future, I'm telling you.
Okay, well, let me give you a little more information about this film. Josh Boone, the director, was talking with Slash Film just last week about the film, and he revealed that early on it was supposed to be set in the 1980s, in pretty much the same period as X-Men Apocalypse. And he wouldn't name the executive at Fox, but they supposedly said the studio didn't want to make any more X-Men movies that were set in the past. Boone went on to say, as if that was the reason that Apocalypse was bad. So we were put in the position where we had to kind of rewrite to set the film in kind of a nebulous time where nobody knew how the movies had turned out. So Dark Phoenix wasn't out yet. So again, the characters talk about, Professor X and those sorts of things, but there were no cameos from other characters to sort of lock in what exact time period it was. Also, out of San Diego Comic-Con, the at-home version we had last month, we now have a detailed outline of this film you're never going to see, Aaron. So here we go. It's in a terrifying, action-filled film based on the Marvel comic series. 5 young people who demonstrate special powers are brought to a secret institution to undergo treatments they are told will cure them of the dangers of their powers. These include Danielle Moonstar, a.k.a. Mirage, who's played by Blue Hunt, who can create illusions from other people's fears. We have Rain Sinclair, who's played by Maisie Williams, who can transform into the werewolf Wolfsbane. Sam Guthrie, who's played by Charlie Heaton, who, as Cannonball, can fly at jet speeds protected by a force field. We have Robert DaCosta, who, a.k.a. Sunspot, who's played by Henry Zaga, who can absorb and channel solar powers. And finally, Ilya Rasputin, a.k.a. Magic, who is played by Anya Taylor-Joy. And she is the younger sister of Colossus. Magic becomes encased in armor at will and wields a soul sword that amplifies her multiple superhuman and psychic abilities. So anyway,
there's actually a lot of really cool characters from the comic books that we're looking for. Magic in particular. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people were just excited to see a soul sword. That was it. Mm-hmm. That was their day. They were done once they saw that in the trailer. And so, yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot of cool stuff. But hey, you know the story of Orange Glad I didn't say banana? That was released when the movie was supposed to first come out back when I was a teenager. I had never shaved yet. I had my first crush. And there was a rumor of a movie called New Mutants. Mm-hmm. And now I'm old and I require a cane to walk. And we're still hearing the same synopsis because they haven't really changed the movie at all in the years that it's been supposing to come out. So, aren't you glad I didn't say banana?
But here's the thing. Just last month, on July 28th, we had the 6th anniversary of when that Deadpool test footage mysteriously got leaked, which in turn, created such a sensation that just 3 months later, Fox, which had sat on that footage, that test was completed, Aaron, in 2012. Mm-hmm. They got the tone, they got the version of Deadpool that they wanted. And the thing is, at Fox, they looked at it and it's like, wow, it's really violent and it's incredibly, adult language. And I don't really think this is a movie we want to make. And they put it in the vault and they walked away from it. And Tim Miller actually went out and recruited James Cameron and, gave him the script for Deadpool and read this. And would you please go talk to the people at Fox? And, he came in and said, this is a really funny movie. There's really an audience out there for it. And it's like, and Fox is like, yeah, I know you're James Cameron. I know you're Titanic. I know you're Avatar. We're still not, we're not going to make an R-rated superhero movie. So eventually it just got to the point where it's like everyone who saw the test loved it, but there were still these executives at Fox that would just say no, that didn't want to make that movie. So it was only the reaction on when that thing was released to the internet and Marvel fans lost their minds because this was the Deadpool they loved from the comic. And more to the point, Ryan Reynolds gave this masterful vocal performance because let's be honest, there's not a whole lot of real Ryan Reynolds in that footage. There's a lot of CG and there's a lot of stuntmen really earning their pay. But it was only after that footage got leaked that that movie moved forward and then became a hit and got its sequel. And now ironies abound because, again, here's Disney, staring down the barrel of Deadpool 3. They really want to work with Ryan Reynolds, especially given that he's the guy who made Free Guy for them.
So I wanted to say a couple of things here. First, just because you talked about violent and funny, Marvel, I would like a Harley Quinn for the MC universe somehow, that cartoon, because it's violent, it's vulgar, it's adult, it's funny. And I want something from you, Marvel, just like that, but yours. Find your character. It's probably going to be Deadpool or something like that because that would fit. Okay, so now moving on to what you're talking about. The whole Fox thing, I would give you $100 if any of those Fox execs had ever heard of Deadpool or read a comic book. If they read a comic book, I'd give you $1,000 because they're not attached to that. They don't know why it was good. I mean, they could look at it and they could read it and they could chuckle and go, ha ha, but they don't know chimichangas. They don't know about all that. So they don't get it. And so for a fan that gets it, they're going to be raving, slobbering, stupid for it. So it's not like we've ever expected an exec to know what to do with something cool until after it was already made cool. And they go, oh, there's money in that? Oh, let's make 12 of them right now. We'll do whatever they did. And they just point and go, duplicate, 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 more money with no thought. So let's not be surprised that they didn't get the joke. Lastly, for the MCU problem, Deadpool 3, I think they've got their own solution, and I'm sure someone's had to have thought of this. The Deadpool movies have had people from the X-Men movies in them. However, no X-Men movie ever had Deadpool in it. So if you did the same thing with the MCU, where if it's an Avengers movie, or if it's a Spidey movie, or if it's a whatever movie, no Deadpool. So he's not really in the MCU. But in the Deadpool universe, Spidey can show up. Or anybody who's currently alive and kicking. I mean, Cap could show up. Or Scarlett Johansson could show up if you want to re-sign her again for no stupid reason. There you go. And it will have no bearing on the MCU.
You understand, literally at that moment, they pulled your name off the Marvel Christmas list.
You know what? I've never been on the list. I'm never going to get on the list. Let's not even pretend that people are going to like me for any of this. I like Scarlett Johansson, by the way. It's not like I've got anything against her. But she made a sacrifice. If it's got to count, you got to keep her dead. That's the rule. You bring her back, you lessen the sacrifice. That's my point.
Look, from a storytelling point of view, I totally back you up on that point. That there has to be consequence. And a sacrifice to have weight has to, again, be a sacrifice.
Like if they sign her to do like another Black Widow movie that's even more of a prequel that goes even further back, but now she's like also needs a cane to walk because she's been waiting for New Mutants to come out as well. She's not going to be able to, do the whole, hey, look at me, I'm still like I was in Iron Man 2.
No. But I can't help but think the Pirates movie Dead Man's Chest that ended with literally the last 30 seconds of that movie, the 2 hours before it were just hours and hours of exposition setting up the third film. But it was only in the last 30 seconds where Barbossa comes on screen and where's my ship? It became the movie you actually wanted to see. And if it were something like that, where a Scarlett Johansson, wait a minute, you're supposed to be dead, that it put fuel in the tank and made me want to come to a theater and find out, well, how is it that this character that sacrificed herself for the Soul Stone is now back?
Well, I think with all of the Doctor Strange, when we've got WandaVision and all her freaky deaky powers available to alter reality, we've got plenty of opportunities to experiment with it. I just think, Robert Downey Jr., he earned his retirement. I think that ScarJo has also earned her retirement because she even got a movie after the fact. Robert didn't get one after the fact. So, just let those characters rest. We've got plenty of other things to explore, and we've also got plenty of opportunity to come back and visit them again in Marvel What If. Is that still happening? Please tell me it is.
Well, the interesting thing is at Comic-Con, Marvel did do a panel about their reality series. I think it was called 616, where it's talking about heroes in real life, in the real world. But yeah, I don't recall that there was anything there about What If, but with animation allowed to actually move forward because, animators in theory can work at home. Though, I want to say the folks over at Cartoon Brew just recently did a piece about, I think it's Mercury Studios up in Canada that does a lot of the work for Disney. And they were just talking about the fact that, doing this from home, this incredibly collaborative art animation is a lot harder. I know the execs think, hey, it's just pencils. You're just home with your Syntec. And it's like, no, this is, doing this from the house is tough. So... But yeah, as I understand it, Marvel What If is still on track and, still has, all of that amazing voice talent from the actual Marvel Cinematic Universe, playing those characters. And what's interesting is that what they did for the Agent Carter episode is that they hit the sweet spot. It's right between the stylization of the comic books of the 1940s, but also has just enough of the likeness of Haley Atwell and Chris Evans. Just enough that it's like, oh, yeah, okay. So, you guys gave it a decent shot.
Okay.
So,
cool.
but yeah, that sadly, there is no information about when that is showing up on Disney Plus. But again, they've been pretty close to the vest about, especially with the Marvel related stuff. And again, that, to bring it full circle, that's all coronavirus COVID related. It's hard to talk about, well, when is that going to get here? And it's like, we don't know. I'm waiting on a friend who's got the casting sheet for Hawkeye. Mm-hmm. Hollywood is, for all this stop and start and are we going to open theaters or are we not going to open theaters? But, it's still a working town. And it's just sort of like, so the casting for Hawkeye is underway. And, that I'm supposed to be getting a line on who the villain is. But that'll be something we talk about on the next show, folks. So, and while you're waiting on that one, we have a number of other podcasts here at the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network. We've got Disney Dish with Len Testa. Len's been doing a lot of walkarounds to the park. We have the I Want That podcast I do with Shelley Valladolid. We're going to be recording a new one of those this week. Likewise, we're going to be recording a new Universal joint with Dustin Fuse, and that's going to get interesting. There's been a lot of layoffs. They're pulling a lot of the attractions, or a significant number of attractions out of the inventory at Universal Studios Florida, likewise at Islands Adventures, so that's going to get interesting. And of course, we have fine-tuning I do with Drew Taylor, likewise looking at Lucasfilm with Dan Z, and again, be recording a brand new one of those this week. Tell you what, folks, though, if you could do myself and Aaron a favor, and if you could head over to iTunes and rate and recommend the show you just listened to, Marvelous Disney, that helps us get extra ears and eyeballs. If you get out to Bandcamp and subscribe, that means when Aaron and I go to the movie theater and somebody has actually stolen the patent for the COVID feed bag, we can afford one. If you want to keep tabs on what Aaron and I are up to, you can head over the social media wise. You can find us, Twitter. In fact, I was so enjoying your post today about what is the Peach Festival, right?
Yeah. So here's the rule, guys. If you're going to be at the Peach Festival, I am wearing the Peach mascot outfit. I am, however, not allowed to speak at all. That's part of the rule, right? You can't just walk up to Mickey and go, "Hey, Mickey, what's going on?" He's like, "Hey, not much, Ted." So I'm not allowed to talk. However, even though I'm not allowed to talk, I would like to invite all of you to feel how soft and fuzzy the peach costume I'm wearing is. Don't even ask. Just walk up and start touching me softly. And feel how the peach fuzz all around my peachy body. Don't ask permission. I give it to you now. Please touch me at the Peach Festival.
Okay, sorry,
if there
folks.
is someone in a peach costume, oh my goodness, I cannot wait to hear about this.
Okay, I really have to go call our attorneys, but anyway, in the meantime, if you want to follow this stuff, head over to Twitter and Instagram. We've got the Jim Hill Media, and on Facebook we got Jim Hill Media News. Aaron, you're just Aaron Adams on Twitter, right? Or
actually, no, I'm incognito. I go by my little incognito business name, Azaprod, Azaprod.
There we go. Okay, you want to keep your eye on some fun stuff? Add that to your Twitter feed, folks. And but anyway, we'll be back with a new show very soon, and Aaron will probably be. I think he'll be making parole by then, right, for this peach thing.
It should be, hopefully, if I get a good lawyer.
There we go. All right. Well, thanks for listening, folks. We'll be back soon.